One of my favorite strategies for helping you sell more books actually happens before you write your book. And it's based on a story from Anne of Green Gables. Hi, my name is Brian Dixon from Hope Books. Now, if you've never heard of Anne of Green Gables, it's like a classic Canadian story. I grew up in Canada. And so this is a story that I watched over and over again as a kid. Now, basically, Anne wants to be a writer, and she ends up writing an essay, and her friend submits that essay for an essay contest. And she changes one thing. Okay. If you know the story of Anne of Green Gables, do you know the one thing that Diana changed in Anne's story? The one thing Diana changed in Anne's essay was that she added the brand name of the flour company. It was the Rollings Reliable Baking Powder Company or something like that. And the contest was hosted by Rollings Reliable Baking Powder Company. Why did Anne win? Was it the quality of her writing? Or was it because the owners of Rollings Reliable Baking Powder Company loved that their brand was represented in the essay? You probably already know the answer. In fact, it's called product placement. Yes, OG product placement. She placed the product inside of the writing. And so that is what I wanted to share with you today. What if you were to do product placement in your book? Oh, I know. My Enneagram 4s right now are going, Brian, that's so inauthentic. It's not truly me. How dare I try to put product placement inside my novel, inside of my devotional, inside of my memoir? Well, actually, there's a way to take advantage of product placement while still being authentic. So, for example, my friend Carrie Oberbrenner wrote a book about personal development, about escaping the prison of your own mind, about achieving more in your life. But he wrote part of his book at Shawshank Prison. Remember from the movie, The Shawshank Redemption? Guess what? Every summer they have the Shawshank Festival. And guess who's the featured author there? Terry Overbrenner. Why? Because he talked about Shawshank inside of his book. And actually, I think he even called it Escaping Shawshank, which I think is so fascinating. He aligned the message of his book to a well-known brand, which I think is really cool. I was coaching one of our clients yesterday, one of our authors who's publishing a book with Hope Books, and we were talking about an annual tradition in the Christian faith and how there's this one nonprofit organization that is like the go-to nonprofit that most churches partner with for this certain tradition. And I said, what if you could include that tradition inside of your picture book? Don't go get permission from this nonprofit. Don't mention their name. Make it clear that it's not endorsed by them. But if you could include this idea of the kids doing this project for a nonprofit inside of the picture book, then guess what's going to happen? People that do this mission thing are going to want to get that picture book because they'll use the picture book as a curriculum resource to teach the kids about this nonprofit. Isn't that awesome? And the next level is, can you imagine if that nonprofit were to then license the content for the book, publish their own version of the book, or even give a copy of that book to all of their donors, to all their partner churches, to all the people that are their supporters? All of a sudden, you have baked in tens of thousands of units of sales, maybe even every year, because you were smart about product placement. Another example, I'm here in downtown Matthews, North Carolina, where we have our own in-person bookstore. And if I was writing a novel, which actually I recently wrote a juvenile fiction novel, and I talk about Matthews, North Carolina in the story. And guess what? Now I have a connection to the local government, to the Chamber of Commerce, to the tourism board, to anybody who has a reason to try to get more people to come to Matthews, North Carolina. My book can actually be a sales tool. My book can be a resource for them. I used to live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. If I were to talk about something in a book and mention Baton Rouge, Louisiana, you know what's going to happen? People in Baton Rouge are going to want to get that book because it talks about them. People love seeing themselves in your story. Is it product placement? It feels like product placement. I heard this from one of my mentors a long time ago. he sent an email to his list and he was talking about a marketing strategy, but he used massage therapists as the example for his marketing strategy. And then he noticed something very interesting. As his email list grew over the next few weeks, he noticed that there were more massage therapists that joined his email list than before. Why? Because he gave them a shout out. He talked about massage therapy and the value of getting massage in his email. And so massage therapists read that email, shared it with a friend because they saw themselves in the message. And that's what I want to challenge you to do. Can you be intentional about your manuscript? And can you include a wink, a nod, a direct mention of a specific brand inside of your messaging? Now that feels like it could be like product placement, but it can be really powerful to help them see that you care about them and that you want to talk more about them and include them in what you're doing. Because the reality is people support what they help create. If they feel like they're part of what you're making, then they're going to want to share it with a friend. Now, they want to see themselves in the story. So if you were to talk about a favorite sport that you have, if you were to talk about a location, even if you were to talk about a brand name, that brand name might just want to be part of what you're doing. They might want to share it with their audience if you give them a shout out. Now, word of caution real quick is obviously you don't want to infringe on their copyright. You don't want to imply endorsement. You don't want to get sued by them. But mentioning that the main character wore a certain kind of clothes, totally fine. The character's wearing some kind of clothes, you might as well mention the brand. Mentioning where the character lives, the character has to live somewhere. Why not put it in a real place? Mentioning what the character does for fun, like a hobby or a sport. Hey, they need a hobby or a sport. You might as well mention one and be intentional about it. So that is one of the secrets of selling more books, is to be intentional with product placement inside of your book. I hope that encourages you, inspires you, maybe challenges you a little bit. Listen, I'm here at the Hope Bookstore. We would love to help you write, publish, and launch your book. Can you imagine having your book at our store? To learn more about Hope Books, just go to hopebooks.com.